Hello everybody, this is JD. I'm going to talk to you about something. There's some people saying I should do a thing, anti-war thing, an anti-war thing. No, I'm not going to do an anti-war thing. I got something else that's been bothering me for 40 years. Back in the late 60s, when I was a teenager and stuff, and I was a young man before I went in the Navy, I would go around to a lot of these quote-unquote peace demonstrations. At least that's what they called them. And I had a small problem with them. And the problem I had is that it wasn't very peaceable. They were actually very violent. And I remember one time I went to one and we had a show and they had a lot of musicians that were there and they were playing their music and everything, and then afterwards several Marines got up and started telling some things that they saw in Vietnam. Well, the crowd really didn't like it, and it got kind of very violent. I kind of climbed up on stage and, well, I kind of called them hypocrites, liars, cowards, and a few other things like that. But bottom line was, I asked them a question. And I've asked that question for years. And yet, nobody has yet been able to answer it. And that question is, if you become violent and destructive, like the people who send us to war that is violent and destructive, then aren't you the same thing? What makes you tearing up somebody else's property? What makes you destroying things? What makes you fighting any different than the warmongers that send us to war? I mean, I watched the news last night and they had this, I'd have to say kid, I can't call him a young adult because he definitely wasn't that. And he's pounding on this glass window until he breaks it. In front of the store, just pounding on it, breaking it up. And I'm looking at this destruction and violence, and I'm saying, hey, I've seen this before. These are hypocrites. These are liars. These are cowards that do that. I mean, if you want to be that violent, we got a place in eastern Afghanistan we could send you. Back then, I used to say, hey, we got a country we could send you to, Vietnam. Oh, wait a minute, they might shoot back at you, so you don't want to go there because you're a coward. I mean, that is not a peaceful demonstration. That is not a peace demonstration. That is a war display. When you go and you create that much disturbance, you're nothing but a war machine. You are what you're against. And once you start doing what you are against, don't you become exactly what you were against? I cannot understand to this day how people can be so violent and say this is a peace demonstration. Explain that to me. They couldn't in the late 60s, they couldn't in the early 70s. Maybe now if you sit down with your grandfather, say, hey, you know, the guy who asked this question back in the late 60s and early 70s is asking it again. And maybe since you were demonstrating back then, and I'm doing it now, maybe we could come up with an answer? Or is there no answer? You are what you do. So you get out there, you tear up property, you fight, you hit. You're a war machine. You're a warmonger. Don't say I'm a peace activist, because you are definitely not that. And what did I say about wars? Nobody wins. Everybody's a loser. And if you're waging a small war, how do you expect to win? The police will be there, you lose, the police loses, the public loses. Who wins? Nobody wins. You prove my point again about war. Once war is waged, nobody wins. It doesn't matter who's right. It doesn't matter who's wrong. Once the war is started, everybody loses. So you, quote unquote, peace activists who go around acting like war machines, attacking things, destroying other people's property, saying, oh, I'm doing it in the name of peace, you are doing it in the name of war. And nobody wins with that. I can't say anything else about it. You can't give me an answer how that makes it okay for you to be a warmonger and not our government, when you act just like the government. You are doing exactly what you say you're against. How can you say you're a peace demonstrator when all you demonstrate is war? Explain that to me. In the past 40 years, no one else has been able to. Maybe now you can? Or the truth of the matter is, you're a hypocritical liar? You answer that one to me now. I want to know. Someone answer that. How can a warmonger say he's a peace demonstrator? Your actions speak for you, and that's all that matters, not the words out of your mouth. Thank you. This is JD for President. I'm a write-in.